What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Strong.Sistas YouTube channel. In today's video, I had the great pleasure of chatting with Greg Judy on a Friday evening. So Greg Judy is one of the best regenerative ranchers out there, and I really admire and appreciate his enthusiasm and passion towards regenerative agriculture. He's also extremely knowledgeable, and if you're not following his YouTube channel, Greg Judy, the Regenerative Rancher, you are certainly missing out. So with 2 decades of experience behind him, Greg Judy has really figured out how to make farming successful by working with nature and minimizing inputs. So I really hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to hop on to a quick interview. I know you are incredibly busy with everything that you have going on, so I really appreciate it. But I think that you are just you just have so much great information, and I know that our audience will appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you as well. So I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to do so.
Good.
Okay.
Well, look forward to visiting with you.
Yeah, that would be great one day. We're not too far apart. So I'm in Southwest Michigan, kind of close to South Bend, about 40 to 50 minutes north. Do you know roughly how far you are from there?
It's about an 8-hour drive.
Okay.
8
Well,
hours.
let me know if you're ever in the Southwest Michigan area. I hope to be able to come visit your farm too one day. I think it'd be a lot of fun, and definitely do one of your on-farm classes that you hold. I think that would be really informative and a lot of fun. I've seen some video clips of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The grazing schools. Yes.
Grazing schools. That'll be fun. Okay, so for our audience, can you provide a brief description of who is Greg Judy and how did you get into regenerative farming?
Yeah. So we farm here in central Missouri, which is about halfway between St. Louis and Kansas City. And a real quick synopsis background, I started out like everybody, very conventional. I bought the land, bought the cattle, bought the equipment, and had a job in town. And I was struggling. I was doing everything conventional, what everybody told me to do. And at the end of the year, I found out there wasn't a whole lot of money left. And following the so-called professionals, doing what everybody told me to do. And so I started looking at doing the opposite of what everybody was doing. And that's when things started to turn around for us. And, today I have quit my off-farm job. And so I am a full-time farmer now. And we graze cattle, sheep, we raise guard dogs, we put on grazing schools, we manufacture bale unrollers. I've got 2 books out now. We do, I've got the YouTube thing going on. So we sell shiitake mushrooms. We've got over 3,000 logs that grow mushrooms.
Cool.
We sell birdhouses. We got a sawmill. We've got our own sawmill now. And so, yeah, we stay pretty busy out here on the farm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to start with kind of like some bigger picture questions, and then we'll dig into kind of more specific towards farming. So the current climate right now, we have a lot of people who are pushing for a plant-based eating style, such as Bill Gates. And people are saying that plant-based is better for your health, better for the environment. And we know that that's not true. But what would be your advice for other regenerative farmers for how they can set themselves up for success in this current plant-based agenda and climate?
Well, I think number one, you've got to have the goods to back up what you talk about. And if you have a really well-groomed, functioning, regenerative grazing operation where you're capturing huge amounts of solar energy just by moving animals with a wire, no tillage, minimal machinery, there is no other food production model that can even hold a scapegoat to us. And so we're capturing rainwater, we're holding it on our land, we're not putting down pesticides, herbicides, GMO, tilling the soil, poisoning the Gulf of Mexico, putting down all these glyphosates, all that crap. We're not doing any of that. We're using a ruminant animal to heal idle land that wasn't growing any food. And they say, oh, you can't feed the world this way. Bull malarkey. We can feed the world this way. It's been done for tens of thousands of years. We're just reproducing what the ruminant bison did. Massive, massive groups of bison went across the prairies until we shot them all. And that's what they're farming today. Those crop farmers are farming those prairies that were grown. Some of that had, 10, 12 feet of topsoil on it, complements of ruminant animals. We had 17 to 20% organic matter, Ashley. Guess what the national organic matter is now? It's 0.5%, on cropped land.
I was giving people
Yeah,
benefit of the doubt. I was saying like maybe 2, but no. Okay,
no, it's
0.5%.
half a, yes. And it's because of our farming practices, we're having flooding issues now. Oh, we got a water problem. We don't have water. Yes, we've got tons of water. We can't hold on to it. It all ends up in the ocean. And what Bill Gates is promoting he's an idiot. He doesn't understand farming practices. You've got to keep your ground covered, and raising all this GMO crops, poisoning people with glyphosate and all this crap. We're going to turn everybody sterile. I mean, we
Yeah,
will.
yeah.
There's women now that have babies that their breast milk has GMOs, it's got Roundup in it, glyphosate in their breast milk. What in the world have we done?
I think that like so much of like just like the average American kind of is so disconnected from farming that they drive through these cornfields, these soybean fields, and they just see like these perfect rows and they're like, wow, what great farming. And so I think there's a huge misconception with general society as to like what good farming is, and you can't blame them. That's kind of like promoted in like movies and like media and things like that, that like big tractors, straight cornfield lines, tall
Yep.
stalks, like that's seen as good. And so it's almost like there's just a huge disconnect as to what the average American sees as good farming. And so then they don't even blink an eye when they see the monocropped fields that are required for these plant-based burgers, but they just don't see farming operations like your farm. And so my belief is I think we have to push a lot more on the education side. And that's why I love your YouTube
Yep.
channel. Like you are just documenting like how it should be done, and look at my grasses compared
Yep.
to these other farms. So I think that education is just such a huge piece to the puzzle.
It is. And Ashley, there's less of us than there is of them. So we have to be loud. And, I'm out there 5 days a week putting out videos, and, I think we're up to 3 million minutes now a month.
Wow.
And, yeah, 3 million. And so, we're hitting a lot of people. I got 60,000 subscribers now. And it's funny, I was looking at my YouTube a year ago, and I was at 1,000.
Wow,
A
that's
thousand.
awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there actually that are not even farmers. Some of my biggest subscribers are in New York City. I'm serious. They're
Yeah.
living in high rises. They're locked down during COVID, and they can't wait till I post my video each day because it gives them a piece of their life back.
Yeah.
They can sit up there and look at our cows and the bumblebees and the butterflies and the clover plants and the clean water and the cows bucking and kicking and running. It's just a wonderful thing,
Yeah. And I
you know?
really do appreciate your way of communicating and educating people. Like you take them through your day. And I think, like you said, we've got to be loud. And I think that you do a really good job, like adding humor and being loud to it. So I commend you. And I encourage you to continue doing that, because I believe that it's not just education. I think that we have to provide edutainment, because the next generation
Yes.
really relies on social media for their education content, and they love TikTok and things like that, where people can capture their attention with something funny. So like capture them with something funny
Yep.
and then throw education in there somehow. And so I think that those have to really be
Yes.
blended to have an impact. Yeah.
Yes. That's right. Yeah. And actually, I'll tell you this much, and I've been around a little bit, and if you make people mad, all they're going to do is shut their mind. They're not going to listen to you, even if you have a good argument. So it doesn't do any good to make people mad.
Yeah.
If you can educate them, and like you said, tell a story throw in some what you're doing in the midst of that story, all of a sudden people go, wait a minute now, what he's doing out there kind of makes sense,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that's our path. I really do, actually. I think that's our path forward. Did you see my video yesterday? It's the one by Marketplace.
Oh, yeah, I
It
did.
was
The really high
a
quality.
production crew came out here,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
film crew, a professional film crew.
yeah. Very good quality.
Yes, very high quality.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yep. And so they are very, very behind us as regenerative ranchers, the whole food movement. And boy, if we could get, and they're from the town. These people were all from the town that
yeah,
made that movie.
yeah,
And we need more of that. We need more of that because it was professionally job done. And I mean, it showed me out on the land with the cattle, the water, the trees, the wildlife, and they did a great job. I mean, I had people call me, said they actually went into tears.
yeah.
The
I
emotion that
Yeah, it touched
they
me. I was
captured
like,
it.
wow, Greg Judy, there you go. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. And we
agree.
need more. We need more of that.
See, my sister and I are still like wannabe farmers still. Like we have our property and we're about to start. And so we're excited to be able to document more of like starting from scratch and like showing the day to day. But then another question for you, for farmers for people who are like supportive of regenerative agriculture, but they don't want to be farmers. That's totally fine. Like not everyone has to be farmers. Not everyone is going to be farmers. For informed consumers who want to support the regenerative agriculture movement, what do you suggest to them to help spread the word as much as possible?
Every food dollar that they can get a hold of to purchase their food, go directly to the farmer.
Mhm.
Don't go to the grocery store that is selling GMO laced meat. I would go directly to the farmers that are doing it correctly. And there's a great website out there called eatwild.com. And eatwild.com has a list of farmers in just about every state, and call them up, go visit them and see what their practices are of raising livestock. And if they agree with, your philosophy, what you think they should be doing, I would purchase the meat from that farmer.
Yeah.
You've got to support the farmer with your food dollar. And you can sit there and, oh, I'm going to do this. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing, but I don't want to buy your meat. Okay. Well, you've got to have the support of the consumer. The consumer drives this thing, Ashley,
Yeah.
and the consumer dollar. You vote with your dollar.
So, along those lines, I know that your wife does a lot of the like consumer marketing and direct to consumer marketing. What main message do you guys use at your farm to encourage customers and get new customers to purchase? Because many people are used to the cheaper meat at the grocery store. So, what is your main message that you try to not sell because it's true? What main message do you focus on when trying to get new customers and encourage people to continue buying?
If you want to eat real healthy food for your family, animals that were raised humanely had a great life, improved the soil. It's all locally produced. It wasn't shipped 2,000 miles across the interstates to get to your farm table. It came right out here out of our pasture. Okay. So we have the history of the animal. The animals are born on our farm, and that's where they are until they're processed. They never leave. Okay. They do leave when they get processed, that one day. But I think people need to get back in touch with the way their animals are raised. And a lot of people are concerned. I mean, I've talked to vegetarians that were sick. They were sick and they admitted it. So I just don't feel good. And the bottom line was they weren't eating really good grass-fed meat. And the minute we got them switched to that, their bodies did a 180 turnaround. I mean, unbelievable. They're healthy now, but they were sick eating, soy burgers. They weren't getting in the right protein. Their body wasn't, you know, soy burgers, I'm sorry, they don't grow good skeletons. They don't grow good muscle mass. It's not much, you can't recreate what nature's done perfectly for tens of thousands of years in a test tube.
Yeah.
And that's what impossible burgers are. Impossible burgers have 5 times more salt. They got 11 times more round or glyphosate in them than a normal burger does. and they're pushing this off as the way to replace meat. Are you kidding me? I mean, it's unfathomable.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
unfathomable.
And I think a lot of people
It's not
forget
meat.
that like you are what your food eats. And there's a lot of exciting research coming out. I'm not sure if you've been familiar with the work of Dr. Stefan von Vliet at Duke University. He recently published a study at the beginning of this year in
No.
February that showed that, have you heard of the word phytonutrients? So phytonutrients are
Yes.
supposed to only be in vegetables, but his research is showing and
Yep.
documenting that cows that and ruminants that are foraging in very diverse pastures. And so what we mean by diverse pastures is someone who's really taking care of the land, implementing adaptive multi-paddock grazing, holistic management techniques. They have diverse foliage that grows strongly. They don't destroy the roots. They don't overgraze. So Greg Judy is a great example of this. The cows that are grown on those type of grasses contain high levels of phytonutrients, significantly higher than feedlot meat. And so the research is coming out now to really support common sense that this meat is more nutritious. And so I think that that's a really
Yes.
exciting development that a lot of grass-fed and finished farmers can use, especially if they're implementing. And that's the important distinction. It's not continuously grazed systems. It's these regenerative systems where the cows are being moved around
Yeah.
and the grass is being taken care of. And so I think that that's a really exciting development to kind of even more back up the claims that this meat, granted, meat itself, regardless of how it was raised, is nutritious, but there are health benefits to the grass-fed and finished regeneratively raised meats. So I think that that's like just a cool
Absolutely.
study and development coming out. But yeah.
Yep. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up some specific farming questions. So the bigger the better these days in conventional farming, right? The bigger the combine you have, the bigger the tractor, the amount of acres that you have, the higher the yield, bigger the better. And then you have Greg Judy, who says we want small cows. So can you explain your reasoning for keeping your cows at 900 to 1,000 pounds? And that's like the final finished weight, right? That you prefer?
Yes. And that's because I want to make a living on the land and not give all my money away to the feedlot and the packers. Period. That's number one. You are going to be a whole lot more profitable, Ashley, if you can keep your cow size down around 1,000 pounds. And I'll give you the whole list of reasons. Number one, let's just say, Ashley, your cows weigh 1,500 and mine weigh 1,000. I can graze 3 cows for the same amount of forage as you can 2 1,500-pound cows. We're just going by math here. So you've got 2 cows that weigh 1,500 pounds. That's 3,000 pounds. I've got 3 cows that weigh 1,000 pounds each. Okay. So I've got 3 calves to sell. You've only got 2. Okay. Now your calves are going to weigh a little bit more than mine because they're out of a bigger cow. But guess what? When I sell them, my calves are going to bring more per pound than yours are. And that's because my calves are going to wean at, say, 450 pounds. Yours are going to wean at 650. The smaller weight, the lower weight calves always bring more per pound. So on a farm basis, I've got more calves to sell than you do, Ashley. They're going to bring more per pound than yours are, Ashley. And my cows are not going to destroy my pastures when it's rained for 2 weeks. You put your 1,500-pound cows on my pasture, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm going to make you put them up in a sacrifice lot until my pastures get solid again, where I can turn the cows out. Otherwise, your cows will make my farm look like a feedlot. My 1,000-pound cows, they're out there 365 days of the year. I never, ever, ever put them up in a sacrifice lot. And that's because we move them. But I grazed those big ones. I did for 7 years. Guess what? I can still tell you today some of the places they were at when it rained. They destroyed it. That was 20 years ago. Big cows will put you out of the grazing business, period. Don't do it. Don't go down that road. But you're going to hear, but Greg, the Packers won them 1,500 pounds. Fine. Let them go buy them from somebody else and let them go broke. But don't you go broke. Because at the end of the day, you are a solar energy collector. That's what you are. You're collecting solar energy through a grass blade, And 1,000-pound cow will always wean a higher percentage of her body weight than a 1,500-pound cow will. Oh, and did I tell you in the wintertime, they'll stay fat? A big old 1,500-pound cow, you got to feed them breeder cubes or some kind of grain to keep them from losing weight, or they won't breed back. They get so thin that they drop out of your cow herd.
You bring up some great
That's
points.
some of the reasons.
Yeah.
Some of the reasons. Oh, here's a good one, Ashley. How many mothers today can fit a 900-pound carcass in their freezer? 900 pounds. That's what they dress out at, these great big old steers. Does the mother have room in her freezer to put a 900-pound carcass? No. Ours weigh about 550. Our whole carcass is 550. Our ribeyes are about 8-9 inches. These ribeyes on these big cows are 20 inches. Can you eat a 20-inch ribeye? Can't even fit it in the skillet. You can't put it in the skillet.
Great points.
Yeah. So
someone would need like an industrial, like restaurant size freezer to fit that cow in. Yeah.
Yep. So if you're direct marketing meat, keep your carcass down. I'm talking about your hanging weight somewhere between 500 to 600 pounds.
Yeah. That's a good point. You brought up a great point that like these larger cows can be really destructive to the soil and the land. And so this could potentially be one of the reasons why feedlot operations can release so much carbon, because you've got these huge cows in such a small confined area that are so destructive, not being allowed to rotate or move. So I kind of didn't really make that connection before, that like feedlot cows are typically larger than the grass-fed cows, and so that could be one of the reasons why they're a little bit more more destructive to the soil. Cool. Okay,
well,
so
first of all, Ashley, if you do grass-fed beef and you're running 1,400-pound cows, the steer you save out of that cow, you will not get him finished on grass for 3 years. 3 years. I can finish our steers anywhere from 20 months up to 26 months. They're finished. That's a huge reason not to have big cows if you're doing grass-finished beef.
Yeah. Time is money. Yeah.
Time is money. And guess what else, Ashley? Every day that steer's on your property, what can it do? It can die.
Oh,
It can die.
yeah.
So the longer they're on your farm, you have a higher risk of losing money on, because they could get hit by lightning or get, they just die. Sometimes they just die.
Yeah.
So you want to get that animal finished in somebody's freezer and then get another one going.
Reduce your risk. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I noticed that you do cows and lambs. Do you have like an ideal lamb size? So you say 900 to 1,000 pounds for cows. What about lambs?
Anywhere from 110 to 140. Most of our lambs that we butcher and sell direct, we get them up there. I mean, when you say lambs, they're actually, you would call them a mutton, because they're over a year old. The 15 to 18-month-old lambs, golly, those are beautiful. They have so much better fat carcass, a nice layer of fat on them.
Yeah.
The lamb chop's a lot bigger. They're just more meat. And we used to sell Christmas lambs. They're not very big by Christmas, because they're running hair sheep. Hair sheep are a little bit slower maturing than wool sheep are.
Okay. And I think someone would potentially bring up like, oh, then why are you looking for bigger lambs but smaller cows? It's just like such a difference in the weight and time. It's like different time scales and different weight scales. It's not fair to compare. But why doesn't Greg Judy choose to do chickens or pigs?
Yeah, so we did pigs for about 8 years, and I've decided that, to really do well at what I need to be doing, I need to stay focused.
Yeah.
And actually, I'll give you that little piece of advice. Find what you love in life and be good at it. Find what you love in life and be good at it. Every morning you wake up, you don't ever have to go to a job because you love what you're doing. I love working with cattle and sheep. Pigs, I loved them. I mean, they're nice animals, but I hated it because I couldn't feed the pigs with what grew on my land. So yeah, I had acorns, I had hickory nuts, I've got walnuts, and I had clover. But you know what? When that snow's flying out there in the wintertime and it's cold, that hog has got to be fed some grain. And
Yeah.
I'm not a grain farmer. And by the time we bought non-GMO grain, and we never did feed organic, but we did feed non-GMO, I'm sorry, Ashley, the margins there were so thin that people were not willing to pay that.
Yeah.
We were getting, around $1,000 for a hog, and like, oh heck, we'll go down the sale barn and get one for 250. Why would we pay you $1,000 for that hog? They didn't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
So to me, you've got to make a living on the land. I'm going to stay focused on solar energy collectors, blades of grass and clover and browse, stuff that can eat that and turn that into a valuable protein that I can sell without having to go to town every 2 weeks and buy a ton of grain, which that's what we were doing. We had 600 chickens here. We had 600 layers, and another family was doing that on our farm. Actually, they weren't making any money.
Yeah.
They were going out to those chickens 3 times a day, letting them out in the morning, getting the eggs at noon or after lunch, and then they'd have to lock them up at night. It was a lot of work, and they had a bunch of netting, and they did the best they could with them. They just couldn't make any money. And I mean, they were getting like 120 dozen a week and stuff. They had to drive them to St. Louis to get $5 a dozen for them, because around here people were selling them for $2.50 a dozen.
Yeah.
Their cost on those eggs was $3.50. That's what their cost. Their break even was $3.50.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Ooh.
But now they were buying non-GMO bagged feed in 50-pound bags, not bulk. And they didn't have a lot of equipment, but they just couldn't make any money at it. So here's something I want to share with you, Ashley. Remember this quote, okay? It's better to do nothing and make nothing than to do something and make nothing. Did you get that? Did you get that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you're going to do something, by all means, knock a home run.
Yeah.
Knock it out of the park. Don't be satisfied with average. You don't want to be average ever. You want to be above average.
I didn't know that Greg Judy was so motivational. I'm like really inspired right now. I'm ready to go get to work. I've heard similar things.
You should be.
I know. We really should be. We are interested in doing layers. So like chicken, like getting eggs. But I really do struggle a little bit mentally knowing that I have to give them feed, because like you have the regenerative agriculture movement and we're against monocropping. We're against spraying. We're against tillage. We're like on opposite sides, but you have to feed the chicken and pigs this feed that was raised in a conventional agriculture system. And that's like, I have a disconnect in my mind with that. And so that we're actually interested in doing like corn and soy free.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm struggling because we talk against it, but it's implemented in pretty much any regenerative, like it's implemented in every regenerative farm across the country, because like you said, the profit margins are so small. Who is going to pay a lot more for higher, more expensive feed? I'm going to try it out. We're going to try to do corn and soy free eggs. And obviously the price will have to be a lot higher, and it'll be really interesting to see if we can have a consistent market who is willing to pay that price. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'm going to do this similar to Greg Judy and have to get rid of it, just because non-GMO feed is great, but it's still grown with monocropping. And so
yes,
I have a disconnect there.
Actually, you're giving your money away to somebody else. Just think about it this way. We've got 375 cows out there. Okay. Those cows tonight, we moved a wire. 300, and this is February 26th We moved a wire. They all fed themselves. Green blades of fescue and a little bit of green clover still down in that canopy. They fed themselves. Now in ice storms and snow, yes, we have to feed some hay, but we don't put hay up. We buy it, and we can buy hay. There's hay contractors. That's all they do is they bale hay, and you can buy it. So we're bringing those nutrients onto the farm, and people say, but Greg, you're selling livestock off your farm, so you're mining that farm. In other words, you're not replacing those minerals and all the stuff that goes with that cow when you sell it. Yeah, well, yes, we are. We're bringing that hay in, and we're keeping other families in business. So that money, I'm spending money in my community to another family that bales hay. Then he takes my money and he can send his kids to college or whatever he wants to do with that money. But we're keeping our money local. Did you know, Ashley, if you can keep your money in your community, it touches 8 other people's hands?
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
8. Yes, 8 other people's hands. At every dollar that stays in your community, it touches 8 other people's hands. Now, if you spend $1 at Walmart buying hamburger for 99 cents a pound, where do you think that dollar went? It went to Bentonville, Arkansas. It didn't stay in your community. It didn't stay in your community. And you bought some crappy meat for 99 cents a pound.
Yeah. Yeah. So I can summarize, Greg Judy, not doing chicken and pork because it requires feed from like some unknown location,
Yes.
money and materials to someone else that you don't know of. And so you really take pride in like being able to feed your animals from like what you have at your farm.
Yes. Minus hay. We do buy hay. So we don't put up any hay on our farm. And
Yeah.
I get that thrown at me all the time. Oh, Greg, you're stealing somebody else's nutrients. I didn't steal them. I paid hard-earned money for it. And I'll share you a little secret, Ashley. When you buy your hay, it makes you a better grazer. It does. It makes you a better grazer because every time you have to roll one out, it pinches your pocketbook. Like, oh, ouch, that hurt, that hurt. And so you focus on being a better grazer, not
Yeah.
overgrazing your plants so you can grow more forage.
Yeah. That's a great point. Because you realize that hay can
Yep.
actually add up and be expensive. And so I better be smarter about my grazing during the year.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. And Ashley, you cannot own the equipment. You cannot own the equipment to put up your own hay and pay yourself a wage to put that hay up. You're going to have $100 a bale in it. I'm
Yeah.
talking about a big round bale. You're
Yeah.
going to have $100 a bale in it. You can't do that.
I actually heard from one of your videos that it makes more sense to buy hay than to grow your own hay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If go ahead. Sorry.
If it frees up your land where you can graze every square inch of your farm.
Yeah.
So if you get in a drought situation, let's say you're approaching this terrible drought and you've got 40% of your farm reserved as your precious almighty hayfield. Oh, I can't touch that. I can't graze that. Why not? Well, it's my hayfield. What if you could graze that? It's going to save your bacon. It's going to save your bacon. You're going to make money, Ashley. You're going to stay on your farm. You're going to do well. Get rid of the hay equipment, put fence on that hayfield and get some water out there and you're in business.
And plus the benefits that ruminants provide to the field and the soil as well. Like the bacteria in the rumen itself and the poop and the saliva and urine, that benefits the soil a lot more than, just mowing it. Cool.
Show me a hay baler that poops out manure piles.
Maybe someone will invent that. Okay, so I want to show you a top-down view of our property really quickly and get your feedback. So this is just like drone. You can imagine, so it's 22 acres. And so you can imagine all of this right here has been used for conventional corn and soy crop rotation for decades. And so there's very little organic matter, probably around 0.5 to 1%. And then we have these 2 acres right here that haven't been used for any conventional ag for quite some time. And so we've got total 22 acres to work with for this year. And our original plan is to get chickens out
Okay.
there, get some layers within the next like month, 2 months, because they don't require a perimeter fence and they don't require grass necessarily. And then we are going to do some seeding in the spring, and then get lamb out there when the perfect time after seeding. So once the grasses are at the right stage, and get lamb out there. So that was our plan for this year. My only I've been advised by a few people that I'm probably going to have to use a little bit of nitrogen fertilizer after seeding because the land is dead. If you had that property and if you were a new farmer, what approach would you take for this year?
I would be out there right now. I mean, I don't know. Do you have 2 foot of snow over the top of it right now, or is
Yeah,
there snow on it?
Yeah, it's just now starting to melt. Today with the high was like 45, so we shouldn't have any snow in about a week.
So anytime that I could get a piece of equipment on that I could spread out carbon, hay, especially if it's a cornfield, all you got is bare soil out there.
Yeah.
And so you've got to get some carbon laid down there, start building the organic matter in the soil. And the best way to do it is with a ruminant animal, trampling it, inoculating what you roll out there, running it through the animal, pooping and peeing, stomping, laying on it, sleeping on it, getting that animal impact on it. Actually, there's nothing that turns that farm around quicker than putting carbon followed by a ruminant animal. There isn't anything. Chickens, yes, you can get a lot of nitrogen and you can get some fertilizer effects, but they're not the size of a cow.
Yeah.
Cows can trample a lot of that carbon and see when a cow, let's just look at this. This is their hoof. Okay. When a cow steps down the ground, her hoof's spread out like that.
Yeah.
And so she's constantly mashing and spreading out that carbon, and she's bruising. We call that term bruising the soil. And when they can bruise the soil, they're planting seeds with every step they take. They're planting seeds out there. And there's probably tons of seeds actually in that seed bank. Now, you're not going to like some of them. If it's been row crop, there's some weeds out there.
Yeah.
But that's where you get the sheep. You know, the sheep love weeds. And so you might be just fine using sheep. And you can build soil with sheep. People say, oh, they're too small. They're this and they're that. No. If you unroll hay and put those sheep on it on a smaller area, they'll just beat the stuffing out of that hay. We're doing it. We're doing it right now.
Yeah.
A video that I'm going to be loading up, let's see, in the morning. It'll be tomorrow. What is tomorrow? Saturday?
Saturday.
I've lost track of days. Huh? Saturday. Yeah. Tomorrow morning, you'll see the sheep, what we're doing on this piece of land. It was a bad piece, but it's turned around.
Cool.
And we're unrolling hay and letting the sheep work it in with their little hooves. They stomp the bejeebers out of it. They really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I was advised by a few people to use sheep instead of cows because of how like fragile the fields are, and it's only 22 acres. So if you had, so for 22 acres, then in order to allow for like appropriate rest time, I was thinking around 20 to 30 lamb. What number would you estimate for that size?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a pretty conservative start.
Yeah.
I would rather be on the conservative side than be overstocked, and then you run out of grass.
Yeah.
And if you're getting around too quickly and you're coming back too soon and your plants aren't recovered from the previous grazing, you know what that term is called in grazing? It's called eating your seed corn. You're not getting anything to plant next year.
Yeah.
And in grazing terms, it means you're grazing the roots off of your plants.
Yeah.
Each time you make your rotation, the plant is slower to come back because you grazed it too soon.
Yeah.
Make sure, well, I'll show you. This is my wife's darning needle for making quilts. The tip of that. Make sure the end of your plants have a tip on it. See that tip?
Yeah.
Can you see that tip?
Yeah.
If a plant If a plant has a tip on it, it's ready to graze. If it's still flat like that, well, shoot, you can't even see it.
Yeah.
If it's flat, it means it's not recovered. It's not grown back.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
so you would suggest just putting hay and sheep out there? You wouldn't do seeding or anything like that?
If you want it to get started a little bit quicker and you got the money, you could put down some, you know, people always ask me, what kind of grass seed should I plant? And that's a tough one because I don't know where you live. I don't know what grows good there, but I tell people, go out to the road ditch
Okay.
that runs in front of your farm and see what's growing in that road ditch. If it's fescue, brome, clover, orchard grass, then that's what I would plant.
Okay.
But I'll give you a little tip, Ashley. When you do your grass seeding, if you do plant grass, you're going to get a better stand if you use a no-till drill because you're going to get better seed to soil contact. The other thing is, don't plant your clover. Don't plant your clover right away, because what'll happen is the clover will come up like gangbusters and it's got a real wide leaf on it like that. Your grass plants has a thin leaf like my finger. Which one of those is going to gather the most sunlight?
Clover. It's going to take over.
Over. It's going to take over. It'll absolutely crowd out your grass. You won't have any grass. I made that mistake. So please don't do that. Get your grass started, and then this fall, or you could even do it. Yeah,
August?
it'd be better to
August, maybe?
Yeah. Go in there and on a clover, you could frost. You could broadcast that.
Yeah.
You could put that on the spin seeder, and put down 3 pounds to the acre. Yep, 3 pounds to the acre.
Okay.
And don't forget to inoculate it.
Yeah.
Most people, they don't inoculate their clover seed, and then the clover seed, if it's non-inoculated, it can't fix nodules. And the clover, the more nodules that it forms on its roots, the more area that it has to store nitrogen from the air. Okay, that's what it does. It has a legume has the unique ability to grab nitrogen out of the air and bring it down in those nodules, but it can't do it if it's not inoculated.
Yeah. Okay. So I've always, like, again, with like struggling with like feeding non-GMO, like monocropped feed, the transition from like these row crop fields that I showed you that we have to perennial pastures. A lot of the suggestions are, you're going to have to do seeding, and then you're going to have to apply some synthetics in order to get good growth. Do you think that synthetics would be 100% necessary, or it's just going to help get the grasses growing faster? Would you apply synthetics at the start, obviously, not down the line?
Yeah, I call that sleeping with the devil one time.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So you could do it once in your lifetime. You could do it once in your lifetime, one time.
Okay.
To get something to grow.
Yeah.
Because if you put all that seed out there and you get nothing, get nothing. And Ashley goes and tells us, I didn't put nothing down. Well, guess what? You didn't get nothing to come up either.
Yeah.
So you wasted a lot of money.
Yeah.
Gabe Brown, a good friend of mine. You've heard of Gabe.
Yeah.
And Gabe still uses a little bit of synthetic fertilizer when he needs it.
Yeah. Yeah.
If he needs a good heavy cover crop and he doesn't have the nitrogen available, he'll put down a little bit.
Yeah.
But don't get married to it. Don't get married to it.
Yeah. He made the analogy that, like, it's like a drug addict. You have to wean it off. And so I'll plan to use it this year and this year only, and then let the ruminants do the work and let the perennials establish down the line. Okay. So I think that you're in agreement. I that's probably the plan for this year.
Yep.
Okay. And you have a lot of sheep. So what do you suggest for the best fence options? So either just polywire, or do you think that like the field fence is necessary?
Well, starting out, it depends where you get your sheep. That's the reason that we are sold out all the time, because we have some of the easiest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen how we run our sheep. We have one wire,
Okay.
one wire, one
Wow.
poly braid wire, 10 inches off the ground, and it keeps our sheep in. Yep,
Wow.
one. But now it's got 8,000 volts in it. The post spacing is tremendously important. If you're going to keep sheep in, you can't stick your posts 20, 30 feet apart. They need to be about 12 feet apart when you start.
Okay.
Now, once you get them broke to one wire and 12-foot spacing on your post, then you can go up to 14 feet. But make sure you keep that wire fiddle string tight. It's got to be tight, because if a sheep sees a saggy wire, that sheep is gone. He's gone. Yep. And here's the cool part, though, Ashley. We're running 1,000-pound bulls in with our sheep. We just took the bulls out today, and within 2 weeks they'll be in with the sheep. And we've got 20 guard dogs in there, and 160 sheep, and we're going to have 77 bulls running behind one wire 10 inches off the ground. 10
Wow.
inches.
Wow.
It keep 1,000-pound bull in 10-inch wire. You know what? You know why they stay in? Because they don't get hungry. They don't get hungry. So we're
Good
moving them. We're moving them.
grazing.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the same way with sheep. The same way with sheep. A sheep, if you get lazy and don't move the wire often enough, that one wire is not going to keep them in.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, if you're starting with green sheep and you want to make sure they don't get away from you, I would probably start out with netting. And within that netting, I would take a poly wire or two and teach them how to strip graze within that netting.
So
Once they, yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes. Then once you get them broke to poly wire, I would start out with 3 wires, 3 polys, and then do that for about a week, and then drop it down to 2 wires, and then gradually go down to 1 wire.
So
And
you
you'll
don't think that a
probably,
perimeter fence is necessary, like a perimeter field fence?
I used to
Okay.
think that, but here, this is what's so powerful. This is what's so powerful now, Ashley. We can take our sheep flock to a farm where there's no fence, none, 0, and put up a 1-wire fence around the perimeter, and we're in the sheep business.
Yeah.
We're in the sheep business. I
So
could have
that's
saved myself thousands. Yeah, I could have saved myself thousands of dollars when I first started out if I'd have known that.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
That may honestly
And
like
I need
go ahead, sorry.
to rephrase that. It's not poly wire. It's poly braid.
Poly braid. Okay.
Poly blade. It's twice the diameter, and it's got like 3 times the shocking power.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then you have a flurd. So you have your
Yes.
a lot of your cows are with your sheep, or you put bulls with your sheep.
The bulls are with the sheep. Yeah.
But I've heard in one of your videos that you suggest others who have a lamb flock to put at least 1 steer in there. Can you explain why you believe that?
Well, it's just you got another species in there with them.
Yeah.
The reason for every species that you can attract onto your farm, it supports 8 additional ones. And so when you're running a cow or something in with your sheep, the cow can ingest, and the parasites that'll kill your sheep can climb up on that cow, and the cow can eat those parasites. It's a dead end host. That parasite can't complete its life cycle. It's the same thing on the cow parasite. The cow parasite can be ingested by a sheep. It's a dead end cycle. And so the cow and the sheep are acting as vacuum cleaners for each other's parasites. They're sucking them up.
Yeah. That's great.
It's a beautiful marriage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have they have competing parasites. And so I think that that'll be really important for us, especially like we are 1st generation female farmers, 0 experience. And so we want to be able to avoid any of these like big issues that could potentially come up, such as parasites. And so potentially putting 1 steer in with that 20 to 30 head flock.
Oh man.
Okay. Okay.
That's gonna help you. Absolutely.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Okay, so getting close to the end here, I don't want to take up more of your time, but just a few more questions. So if Greg Judy was starting as a regenerative farmer in 2021, what would you have done differently now versus the path that you took in the past?
I would have started with temporary fencing, learning all I could about temporary fencing and temporary water. Water placement is critical. You don't set up a grazing operation where you got to be carrying water to your animals. Figure out 3/4 inch polyethylene pipe, get it on top of the ground if you have to start out. Long-term goal, if you own the land, you should trench it, get it down where it won't freeze, but get some water placement out there. Water gives you power. It gives you the power to rotate your animals where they need to be rotated. The temporary fencing, once you get animals broke to hot wire, you don't need to put out $30,000-$40,000 worth of perimeter fence. This hot fence works. It absolutely does. But you've got to have good ground rods, you got to have a good charger, and you got to use the right tools. That's what I would do different. I mean, I started out, I didn't have anything, Ashley. I really didn't. I mean, I was working in town. I went through a terrible divorce that lasted 6 years.
Oh,
I
God.
lost everything. I didn't go bankrupt, but I almost did. And so when you're down to the bottom of your barrel and you're looking out, it doesn't look real bright out there. You need to be inventive, figure out how to do things without spending a lot of money. And so you need to do that. You need to figure out, if I'm going to spend this dollar today, is it really going to benefit me? And I would ask that question a lot starting out. Don't just go out and spend dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. That's honestly
And
very
absolutely,
to us this year.
yep,
We have a
yep,
very limited budget, and so going to be very particular. And you bring up a great point, like fencing and water is kind of going to make or break you in terms of finances and in
yep.
terms of being successful on the farm. So I
That's
need to
right.
go tune into
That's
my
right.
Greg Judy water and fencing videos, relearn those.
That's right. That's right.
Uh,
Study up on those.
they're honestly great, and so I will for sure. So do you got any exciting things happening at Green Pastures Farm this year? Anything you want to let our audience know about?
Yeah, so we're going to be, well, first of all, our grazing school is already sold out for May, and we haven't announced it yet, but we're going to be having 3 one-day grazing schools in September. It's the first time we've ever offered one-day schools, and those are all going to be, just watch our website. We're not going to actually announce them until after our grazing school is completed in May.
Okay.
So yeah, I got that going on. Uh, yeah, and I got a new book coming out.
Nice.
Yep, that's going to be out hopefully within the next 3 months, and that'll be. I think it's going to be a good one. This one I'm going to actually I'm going to self-publish this one,
Cool.
so I have a little bit more control. Yep, and we're looking at maybe doing some ebooks too, something online, so that people can be driving down the road and listen to the book on their Apple phone or whatever. So
Yeah,
yeah, we're looking at some of that, and if you're not a subscriber to my YouTube channel, shame on you. You should be.
I
Go to
agree.
Greg Judy.
I agree.
Greg Judy, yeah, Regenerative Rancher. Go to it, hit that subscribe button. Yeah, so I'm so excited about regenerative agriculture. I think it's the best time in the world to be in it. And you hear all this doom and gloom in the world. It's like doom and gloom. It's a great time to be alive, So go for it.
I agree.
Actually, what gives me hope is seeing people like you.
Oh,
You give me hope. And that's because you're the next generation. You're the next generation coming on. And, within the next 10 years, 60-70% of the nation's farmland, these people are retiring. They're older, and we need you. We need more of you.
yeah. Oh, well,
So,
that's our goal, is to kind of hopefully inspire other young people who have no experience to get into this. And so that's why we're going to document our journey and starting from scratch. And honestly, like, your videos have been very inspiring and educational. Like we went back to the beginning about edutainment. Like, you tune into Greg Judy's videos and it just puts a smile on your face. You make the person laugh, and then you just like drop knowledge bombs. They're great. And so we hope to follow a path where we can hopefully entertain people and then also educate and inspire along the way. So I still want to be farmers, but I am too passionate about regenerative agriculture. And I agree, this is a really exciting time to be a part of it.
It is.
All right.
Yep.
Final question for you, Greg. So we are our YouTube channel and like Strong.Sistas in general, we're passionate about regenerative agriculture, but we're also very passionate about human health. It's ultimately all connected. It really is. And so we're really passionate about nose to tail nutrition. We think using the whole animal is very important nutritionally, and then also eliminating waste. What is Greg Judy's favorite cut of any animal? Anything's for grab. So like one of my favorite cuts is like beef cheeks as an example. What is Greg's favorite cut?
On the pig, it would probably be the jowl.
Okay.
I love the jowl on the pig, and it's because we grew up butchering our own pigs.
Okay.
And so it was a tradition. It was for tradition on Butcher Day. You had fried jowl for lunch. So as a little kid, I grew up, and that's what we had. It was fried jowl. So I still love it to this day. On a cow, it's all good. I like a good steak. I like a good hamburger. Yeah, I'm on sheep. On sheep, it's all of it. Sheep's just awesome. A lamb chop, a leg of lamb on the grill with garlic cloves in. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's some of the best there is leg of lamb. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Greg Judy's favorite cut.
You're making me hungry. Actually.
All right. Well, awesome. Greg, thank you so much for taking the time this Friday evening for jumping on our channel. We'll have to get you on again. I enjoyed talking with you, and I'm going to be checking your website for that one-day grazing school in September. So, all right.
Yes. Well, actually, I'd like to make a comment before I leave.
Oh yeah.
And that is, I think you're going to make a really good farmer. You know why?
Why?
Because you're persistent. You know how long it took us to put this Zoom meeting together? I'm serious.
That's very true.
I'm serious. I mean, it was like 3 months, and you just kept emailing me. I'm like, she's not going to go away. She's just not going to go away. And I thought that was awesome. Well, and I didn't do it on purpose. I just was busy. Every time you'd email me, it's like, I can't. Yeah, I couldn't do it. But I'm like, you know what? This gal's going to make it in farming because she's persistent. Well, that's good quality to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean it. I mean it from my heart. I really do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate your kind words a lot. And I'm honestly really inspired after this call. So again, thank you for your time. And I'll persistently follow up with a follow-up video, hopefully in the future.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right.